The importance of this episode is to know that there is no story without characters. Without characters, a story is just a bunch of data points. And let's be honest, nobody wants to listen or sit through just hearing about a bunch of data points. With story, you're exploring a problem, and the solution to that problem are the characters themselves. Today is all about sharing how you can step into being one step better at telling stories, using characters, and also leaving an impression that is going to put you in the best situation to tell a story that is unforgettable. Without further ado, run the intro.
Who says tech can't be human?
Hello. I'm Jen Langdon. I'm a producer at Hacker Valley. And today's show, it's about leaving an impression, strategies for captivating a massive audience. And speaking of captivating, here is my fellow host, Ron Eddings,
Yes.
CEO of Hacker Valley. How are you doing, Ron?
Doing good. This is one of my favorite topics. And I think that this is so relevant to anyone in cyber, because whether you're doing an interview, whether you're trying to impress others, share data, storytelling is where it's at.
Yeah, when thinking about this topic, I kind of thought, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not that good at storytelling. I don't know that I've done that much storytelling. And then when I really thought about it, I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this my whole life. My sister and I, we had a conversation a couple of months ago, and we were like, gosh, if we had just continued doing those plays, like we'd be YouTube famous. You know what I mean? Like we wrote scripts. I've done art. I even have done blogging. I blogged and it was featured on the NCAA website. And as a teacher and a coach, like professionally, storytelling has just been a critical way to really communicate what I want people to engage with. Tell me more about how stories are going to kind of play into the different types of storytelling that we're talking about today.
Yeah, I could share one area that we all, tell stories from, and that's job interviews. Your resume is a written story about all of your experience. And it does take many people quite a while to realize, okay, my resume should tell a story. A lot of people have shifted and they've done a little summary at the very top of the resume. I think that is actually quite helpful for someone that does not know you. But even more important, when you make your way into the interview is where your time is to shine. And if you can figure out a way to tell a story about yourself in a way that complements what they've read in the resume, but also gives them some scenic details that make them feel as though they relate to you, is how you go very far in getting a job, but also in getting your career started. So when I first got started in cybersecurity, I would say I was actually a pretty good storyteller, and then I started to regress. I had to tell more stories early in my career because I had to figure out a way to showcase that I had experience without actually having experience. So I would talk about personal projects. I would talk about the specific things that I did in school. And when I first got started in my career, I would go back and forth with my college instructor. I went to a community college. We would go back and forth because everything that we read in the book didn't work. The books were written like 2 years ago, so the tools had changed. We used a lot of Nmap when I was in college, and the tools didn't work right. So I started to argue with my professor on better ways to get us working with the correct solutions. He landed me a job. He loved the fact that I would go back and forth with him in class, and then he recommended me to Booz Allen Hamilton. And then from Booz Allen Hamilton, when I was interviewing, I would just tell them about the experience that I had with that instructor. And little did I know, at that time I was telling stories. And then later on in my career, I started to just tell about my responsibilities and my role. And I realized that's not telling the story at all about all of the unique things that I know and the experiences I had. That's just trying to match keywords. And I think now a lot of people are getting better, and they're also seeing the value and the importance of telling great stories.
I will say, having been a public school teacher, that is, if you want to get really good at public speaking and storytelling, just dive right in.
Go teach.
You will learn very quick what is going to work and what does not. But I understand that's not for everybody. What are some other ways when we're looking at storytelling of how we can kind of use that? Actually, the first time I came to Hacker Valley, the first thing we did was a live stream on storytelling. So
Yes. So in that live stream, and fortunately for this live stream as well, we're going to bring it up. We had the story circle.
yeah,
And when in doubt, I always think it's good to use a framework of some sort that is going to help you accomplish and solve a problem. The story framework is created by someone named Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon is the writer and creator behind Rick and Morty. And when I saw this graph, I was a little intimidated because I was like, it says you need go search. I didn't really understand. But then I watched a video on Story Circle and I realized that this circle is broken up into parts. There's a top half of the story circle and then there's the bottom half. The top half is where you have order in the story. So typically in a story, there's a normal, an explosion, and then new normal. So you could kind of look at the story circle in the same way. At the top, you have the normal and explosion, and at the bottom, you have the explosion and new normal. But with every great story, like I mentioned in the very beginning, there's characters. The characters are the solution. So telling your story from the perspective of a character is going to be highly effective. If you're going in and you're asking for more budget from your stakeholders, telling the story from the perspective of your direct reports is a great strategy. Telling the story from your customer's perspective, even better. Telling the story from your stakeholder and customer's perspective, you're bound to get at least a very engaged and productive conversation. So let's break this down a little bit. The first element to any great story is establishing who the protagonist or the characters are. Who are the characters? What's their background? A little bit of scenic and description detail. And you could think of scenic detail as describing where someone is from. Ron from Odenton, Maryland, 33 years old. Those descriptions, scenic. It helps me paint a picture mentally about the character.
when I was teaching, one thing I would do, it took me a while, but I made a character and somebody who was really relatable that the kids could understand was a roommate, somebody who lives with you. So I used my roommate from college and I'd be like, oh yeah, she was from Ohio. She did all this weird stuff we've never done before. I didn't even know about. And so that was a good reference point, kind of setting all of that. But I didn't even know that you had to like make a character up. You know what I mean?
For sure. You definitely do. And hopefully the character is real because I feel like that's always going to be even more relatable. But fiction's still effective. I just posted about me watching Ted Lasso. Oh my gosh, what a great show. Uh, I don't think that I'm like that character, but I strive to be that positive. I strive to be that humble. But they're, looking at the character or the set of characters, they have needs, they have wants, they have goals. And what do we do as humans? We take steps to go and accomplish them. If we want to get in better shape, drop research, you have to take those first steps to get there. And then once we're on our way, guess what happens? We're faced with a very tough decision. And this is the go section. We're faced with a tough
Yeah.
decision. How am I going to overcome all of the obstacles in my way? Nothing comes for free. And a lot of things don't even come for cheap, as much as we wish they did. So, Jen, what would you say has been in your story where you have had a need and you're approaching that explosion or you're approaching a threshold that you have to ultimately decide if you're going to cross over?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can think of a lot. I think if you don't have the pandemic as a defining moment or space in your life, then I don't know if you were really paying attention enough to how it affected you. And I feel like during that time, I was still in school and I was looking to get a job, and I just none of those abilities were were there. And I think I just had to realize like I don't have control. And my go moment was I just need to let go. I need to let go and just not have a plan and see what happens. And honestly, for a couple years, that's worked out. That's been great. And now my go moment is, well, we kind of need to have a plan now. You know,
Mm.
it's the obstacle to getting into cyber. I was like, well, I need a plan.
I'm glad that you mentioned plan, because plan is also part of, going from order to chaos. Creating the plan, you have control over what steps you think need to be involved. But as you start to execute the plan, this is search, this is going through some of those trials and trying to figure out how to overcome them. Every plan that I create, there's something that goes catastrophically wrong. It doesn't matter what it is. We always run into these types of roadblocks, and sharing them, being scenic along the way, describing how you ran into that roadblock. What is that going to do if you don't resolve it? And for other stories, this is explosions. Like if you were watching an action movie, this is when in Taken, when his daughter gets taken. Now Liam Neeson has to come out of retirement and let them be known, hey, I'm coming for you. I'm going to find you. I'm going to search for you. And then you have to find what you're looking for. So often, in our lives and also in the stories that we share, what we're trying to find, we're able to see it. We're able to, it's almost like a distance away. But the journey to going and taking it is where things get even more turbulent. After you create a plan, you see those initial roadblocks, you redevelop your plan. Now you have to then do the work. Doing the work is difficult. I think it's also difficult to do the work when you're trying to develop your storytelling skills.
Yeah, I feel like with my journey, I've already like looped the story circle a couple times, around the block. And I think with the story circle at the end, isn't it just like it's a whole new world, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
the world has changed, the environment's different.
I need to jump in for a second and share some details about a special group that we've created for you, our listeners. We understand the importance of creativity in cybersecurity, and Hacker Valley has created a special Cyber Creators Mastermind. Each month, we meet and discuss how to break down technical concepts through stories, the intricacies and opportunities of using audio and video to highlight what's important in cybersecurity, and we share how you can use content to highlight the hard work that you put into your craft. You can check out the mastermind by visiting hackervalley.com/mastermind. We'd love to help unlock your creative potential and would love to see you there.
We're going to be talking about kind of selecting the right type of storytelling medium for you.
Yes.
And I think we're going to start with you, Ron, talking about speaking. So how do you know that speaking is the right thing?
How do you know that speaking is the right thing? That is the $1 million question. I think that creators, especially now that there's just so many ways that we can create, there's so many ways that we could express our creation, it's difficult to know, am I a better speaker than a writer versus maybe a combination of both, where I'm speaking and writing. There's a new evolution called audiobooks, and that is really cool because some authors out there, not only are they great writers, but when they read their book, you really are transported to their beliefs, their mindset, or their experiences that they're sharing in their books. And for speaking, I think that there's something that everyone has to go through first, and that's the attempt. You got to get on stage, you got to get on a live stream or a podcast episode and give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen. I could tell you, for me, I never thought that I would be, doing podcasts or live streams, hosting events. I thought I would always be the one interviewed. When I was much younger, I wanted to be the best hacker. I wanted to be paid to be a hacker. I didn't know that that was actually a field that you could go in at that point. But I wanted to be paid. I wanted to be like world renowned and go on the news. But now I understand that there's another way to be a great speaker. It's not just by being interviewed, it's by interviewing others. And then I think the most important thing, though, is what is your fear level? Everybody has a fear of exposing what they know and sharing it and then speaking it out loud. If your fear level is at a 10, I wouldn't recommend starting there. If your fear level is at a 5, I think that that's where the growth is going to happen. No one that I know that is in front of thousands and thousands of people doesn't at least feel the jitters, doesn't at least feel some nerves, especially leading up to it. So I don't think that being afraid of it as a whole is a reason to think that that's not for you. And also frequency. We all have batteries, and I'm 51% extrovert. And that lets me know that I can't go and speak on stage and then go to a happy hour and then go somewhere else at after party and be speaking all day because my battery will be
Burnt out.
drained.
Yeah.
So as a speaker, I'm more of like I'm a teacher because I love the interaction. But when it comes to entertainment, if I have to sing and dance and host, then I need to make sure that I maintain some space, an opportunity to recharge because you want to be engaged. You want to be able to bring your best self. So knowing what your capacity is as well is very important.
If you're a really good storyteller, I think you're ready to take the step to speaking. Because one of the first things I did when I was teaching is there's a couple strategies to approach the start, especially the first day. There's so much going on. How do you pack that all in? And I made a script. Don't do that. Don't do that, because in this world when everything's live, like, you cannot have a step-by-step, word-by-word script because something is going to happen.
hmm
Something is going to change. There's going to be an announcement, and your set script is not going to be ready for that. So if you are, very rigid, I don't think the speaking is going to work for you just yet. You really need to be broken a little bit. I think that's what happened to me after a couple of years. I was like, okay, I don't have control. I give up, and I think it takes a while to get to that step. So you can't be rigid. You have to be, what's the word that comedians are?
Malleable.
Yes. But more than that, it's, they have to do some improv. You know what I mean?
There we go.
You have to be able to have that ability just to react on the fly.
You know what? Some people ask, how could I go from being not a speaker to a great speaker? I wish that I could say just by practicing, putting yourself out there, that is a way. That may work, but it may not. And when in doubt, hire a professional. Me and my brother Chris Cochran, we both hired vocal coaches because we wanted to, we thought we were good storytellers, but was the delivery good? And the vocal coaching taught me a lot. It taught me how to own parts of myself that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with, owning my voice, owning that I've been told that I have a big mouth, using that and showing my full teeth, and then I started to get compliments on that. And my vocal coach said something so funny to me, but it was a big compliment. But many people might take this as a slight if it didn't come from my vocal coach. She said, Ron, you have a huge forehead. Use it. She's like, raise your eyebrows. The faces that you could show are elements, are elements to help tell your story. And when you see speakers, everyone asks, should I do hand gestures and whatnot? But you have so much more to your person, your physical being, than just your hands. Your hands are just one tool, your face, and also, your reactions as well. So when you're speaking and really developing whether or not this is the right medium for you, also realize that it's more than just your voice.
For sure. I think that's definitely one of the things in my pre-teacher training, learning the ways to present yourself, right? Even having tidy hair and making sure your clothes aren't distracting. Like, those are key things to getting people to listen to you. And they're all part of the craft. So all these little pieces are actually, I've found to be just so important. And I'm extremely OCD. So after a while, I was able to pick up on a lot of them and put them together. So speaking, honestly, it took me a long time.
When you're telling a story, especially in a spoken word format, you absolutely want to understand your audience types. This is crucial. Who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to people that are internal to your organization that may know something about you, your role, your responsibility? Or you're speaking to an external audience. Maybe you're telling a fictional story, or you're telling a story that you're trying to win over customers, and understanding, okay, well, my customers, is this only their internal team, or are they bringing their contractors as well? Knowing your audience type is crucial. And also, there's public audiences. This is like if you're speaking at a conference. I have kind of gone into situations where I've kind of felt as though I was speaking to an internal audience, but I'm speaking at a conference. And that could be appropriate if they want that insider look. Like if someone from Disney was speaking at a conference, yeah, I want you to speak to me like an internal team member. But if it's someone from some SaaS organization that I've never heard of, speak to me as if you were speaking to a general audience that may not know much about the thing that you do. Because even though I may feel as though I know about a specific topic, uh, usually the speaker tells you and shows you through their words and their stories and experiences how little or how much you know. So that's one piece. And then let's go to the questions to answer about your audience.
Yeah, you need to know about your audience.
You absolutely do. What do they want? What do they want? When Jen and I were planning out this episode, we asked ourselves, what does the audience want? They're going to want to know about speaking, writing, and also video, but also how much does the audience already know about the topic? For this type of topic, I would imagine that there's a wide range of experience levels. So we could be a little esoteric and go into the weeds, but we could also be high level and talk about general structures like the story circle. And then also, what does the audience need to know about the topic? This is something that is a little bit of a moving target, because in cybersecurity, especially, we speak to many different teams. We have our AppSec team, our GRC team, and they all need different levels of information. Sometimes when we are trying to cater to the masses, you end up catering to no one. So in some cases, trying to be general and speak to many different people at once is effective, but other times it's not. So this is opportunities to identify how many times do I need to give this speaking engagement, whether it be a meeting to different teams or going to several different conferences to share an idea from many different angles.
This is kind of the big difference, I think, with public speaking versus writing. And while writing, I think you do have to engage with your audience. I don't know as much that you really necessarily need to cater to them and their very specific needs.
Yes.
I think a key difference with blog writing specifically, you're writing on something you're like, I feel really passionate about this. I think the community really needs this. I'm just going to go make it. Here it is. Here, I'm going to put it out there, So when I made this blog, they made me do this blog for college for my hockey team. And they funneled it to the NCAA website. It was myself and a couple other Division III teams. They were posting and featuring up there. And there was really no goal. It was just like, put stuff up there. And I was like, okay, this is the early 2000s. Like nobody's really doing stuff with blogs yet. It's not big. It's getting there, right? I found out the next year we got new recruits and they had read the blog. And I feel like with a blog, you can really create a more intimate sort of environment. People can get to know you and the outcomes can be amazing. I mean, the next year, like because of that, we got players. We won the championship that season. That was, you think about it, I'm not saying I was the reason that we won the championship.
That's what I heard.
But I think that, there's a lot of power in writing for sure.
There's a book called Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker. It's a Harvard Business Review book. And he talks about the different types of learners. There's visual learners, then there's people that learn best by reading. And then there's other types of learners that learn best by speaking or through osmosis. And I've realized that I am one that is more of a visual and one that speaks out. If I could reiterate something to someone, then I learn it a little bit easier and faster.
Yeah.
I just started rereading the book called Steal Like an Artist. Awesome book for anyone that hasn't read it already. But in the book, he talks about kind of showing your work. For people that are very close to your topic or your subject, they want to know how you got to there. They want to know the path and the journey that led you to some conclusions. They want to see behind the scenes. For anyone that watches a lot of Netflix right now, Netflix is showing more and more through documentaries them sitting down or them speaking to a producer, because like we do want that up close and personal, intimate feel, so we could get closer to the people that we're watching or the characters involved in the stories.
How do you know if video is your thing? How do you get good at video? Like I said, my background experience is teaching a bunch of middle schoolers how to make digital stories, and that experience was Windows Media Player, which I don't recommend, and I don't recommend with middle schoolers, but it gets the job done.
Yeah. I think that if you're a teacher, it's always worth exploring video, because if you're teaching something repetitively, maybe a few times a year or regularly throughout the year, many times a year, video is the way to scale your efforts. If you're able to get a video out and show how to do something, then you could show that over and over and over again.
It's
That's
true.
exactly how we got into video. Is we wanted to have great conversations with really cool people, and we wanted to share that with the world. But now, what I love to do with video is to do a mix of entertainment and education. I call it cybertainment, because I think that, when I'm watching any type of content myself, I love to learn something new. It doesn't have to be like a full breakdown of a topic or a piece of technology, but I love to learn something new, and I love to have fun. I love to play. So I think this new area that I'm kind of shifting into, called cybertainment, is kind of the mix of play and learning.
How does that play into video, though? Like repetition with video. How do you get better at video content?
Yeah, for sure. Repetition is a very important part to video. One new creator that the young kids all look up to is Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is the ultimate. He's a beast at creating content. He says, "Hey, your first 50 videos are not going to be good. Period."
Mm.
And that's true, because when you're recording your first 50 videos, camera is one element, lighting is another element. Your audio, you're bringing in that spoken word component, or at least other people's sound bites or music. That's another component. And then there's just so many moving pieces that, your first few renditions of a project, be proud of, because you created that. But also don't be necessarily married to what people think about it quite yet. Like when I played basketball, I got the late, great Kobe Bryant behind me. My first few jump shots, you wouldn't want to show anybody those. But as you take more and more jumpers, you get better at it. And I'm sure you kind of relate with your background being a D1 athlete.
Oh,
You gotta
D3,
put the
hold up. You're
repetition
talking
in.
me up too good, Ron.
But you
I
also
got
have to
the ring,
learn,
though.
and you have to upgrade your equipment. This is what athletes do. You figure out, oh, these shoes are not made for running. You get new running shoes, and you don't do it all at once. It's a journey, and it's a progression that's going to take time, and it's going to take a little money. It's going to take a little bit of patience.
But we need to talk about making this captivating. What really takes it to the next level? I think we spent a lot of time on speaking and
Yeah.
really listening, building the relationships, how to engage, making that character. We've talked about knowing your audience really well, but like you need to ask your audience and engage with them.
When I think about video, I think about moving the story forward. With a video, if you're going to be sharing it, we looked at the story circle already. The story circle had 8 specific boxes. With
Yep.
a story, whether it be a video, writing, you have to have points of progression. And with video, I think transitions are a huge thing, because they can make one scene feel completely different. You can make 2 scenes almost feel like they overlap, but they're shot in 2 different locations. So
Mm.
I would say transitions are a big piece in video. And if you look at Instagram, Instagrammers have gotten so good at creating like these custom transitions But they also have another thing, the swoosh sound effects. Sound effects are amazing. And I think the other piece is color. If you have great lighting or not so, you could still use color to help elevate the story. Jen looks like she's wearing lipstick. Is that red lipstick?
A little bit.
A little red
It's lip
lipstick.
gloss.
It's attention grabbing. It makes me want to focus a little bit more on you having a pop of color.
Not washed out so much.
You gotta, if you can, maybe get some blazers, put some color in that. Anything that you could do to show your own level of creativity is going to go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. But I think practice is star key. And I think the second one, definitely being open to studying other people. What are some tips they give? How do they approach the same problem that I'm having? I think you can learn from the best teachers.
That's the best way. I think that, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress. And, the progress that you make is going to be very helpful. But then inspiration goes even further. When I'm inspired by someone, they're showing me something that I have never seen. Maybe it's something that I haven't even ever imagined. Having that inspiration, that mentor, or that external party that you could look up to as a guiding light is another piece. And then I would say number one, feedback. That's how you can tell your progress, is to get the feedback from others. If you're speaking to a party of one or a party of 1,000, ask them what they thought. Feedback is a gift. Sometimes that gift doesn't have a cake on the inside or a cuddly bear. It could be a prickly pear. So you have to just understand that no matter what, that the feedback that someone gives you is a gift. It is in wrapping paper, but the gift inside might be or not be what you want. You have to be open for for what's in there, but also for the journey and the exploration of being a better storyteller.
Hmm. And don't forget to stay humble. I think that's going to be kind of my last tip. Storytelling is an art. Teaching, educating, sharing your gifts, that is an art, and it requires your own personal flair. So don't forget to, be creative and put your own personal spin on it. And always be improving, because it's not going to be perfect the first time.
It's not. Great. Well, you know what? We would love for you to share this with anyone that you think would find this content helpful. That is the best way to support our show. In addition to joining our mastermind, sharing, liking, giving this a comment or repost, it means the world to us. And we will see you all very soon. So with that, we'll see everybody on the next episode.
See ya.